Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Ernest Borgnine finally talks about Frank Sutton. Ernest Borgnine was born with the name Efineborgino on January 21, 1917 in Hayman, Connecticut. His parents came from Italy and traveled across the ocean looking for a better life. Growing up in a home where everyone believed in working hard, staying humble, and never giving up, young Nest learned these lessons early. He kept these values with him his whole life, both when acting and in real life. His childhood wasn't fancy or full of luxury. It was filled with normal everyday stuff that later helped him play characters that felt real and that people could relate to. Before he ever became a movie star, Borgnine spent 10 years working in the United States Navy. Those years wearing a uniform changed him a lot. They taught him how to be disciplined, how to do his duty, and how to work well with others. These were things that later made other actors and movie directors love working with him. He wasn't the kind of actor who acted like he was better than everyone else. He acted like someone who understood what it meant to be responsible, loyal, and treat others like family. When he finished his Navy service after World War II, he didn't really know what to do next. But his mom, who saw how full of energy he was, how funny he could be, how expressive his face was, and how naturally charming he acted, told him he should try becoming an actor. And even though that idea probably sounded crazy at the time, it turned out to be exactly what he needed to hear. Borgnine started small in theatre, acting in little local shows where he could learn how to act the traditional way. Nothing was easy, nothing happened quickly, but he was tough, determined, and totally unafraid to take on hard roles. As he got better at acting, more people heard about him, and eventually movie studios noticed him. When he arrived in Hollywood, he didn't look like the usual movie star. He wasn't tall, dreamy-looking, or super polished. Instead, he had a rough, lived-in appearance, a big booming laugh, and a one-of-a-kind expressive personality that made him stand out. Movie directors realized he was the type of actor who could play almost any role: a bad guy, a hero, a regular working-class person, someone in the military, or a gentle person who felt alone in the world. His big break came with a 1955 movie called Marty, where he played a shy, kind-hearted butcher who really wanted to find someone to spend time with. It was a role that needed gentleness, the ability to show he could get hurt, and a real honesty with emotions that tough guy actors at that time rarely showed. Borgnine acted so genuinely that both audiences and critics were deeply moved. For that performance, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, a moment that changed him from a well-respected character actor into a famous Hollywood star. Winning the Oscar didn't change who he was as a person, though. What made people really admire him was that he stayed humble, friendly, and just plain lovable his entire career. Over many decades, Borgnine acted in more than 200 movies and TV shows. From famous roles in From Here to Eternity, The Dirty Dozen, Bad Day at Black Rock, The Wild Bunch, and Escape from New York to his memorable starring role on the popular series McHale's Navy, he showed over and over that he could play many different types of characters. Whether he was playing a smiling Navy lieutenant, a tough outlaw, or a grumpy modern-day grandfather, Borgnine always brought humor, humanity, and a special spark to everything he did on screen. His acting never felt fake or like he was trying too hard. He had this magical ability to become characters so naturally that audiences felt like they really knew these people. When he wasn't acting, people knew him as one of Hollywood's most friendly and kind-hearted people. Other actors who worked with him often said he was warm, generous, and full of playful energy. He loved talking to fans, telling stories, sharing jokes, and making people feel relaxed and welcome. Even as he got older, he kept that same joyful attitude. One of the most lovable things about him was that he refused to stop working. Long after most actors had stopped acting, Borgnine kept going, using his special voice for cartoon characters like Mermaid Man on SpongeBob SquarePants. This made younger kids happy who had no clue they were listening to a Hollywood legend. Ernest Borg's personal life was just as colorful and full of events as his amazing career. He got married several times, and each marriage showed different chapters of his changing life and personality. His first marriage was to Roa Keemans. He married her in 1949, right when his acting dreams were just starting to become real. Their marriage, which lasted until 1958, happened during the time when Borgnine was still a young man trying to figure out the early years of Hollywood. During this time, he was learning how the movie business worked, the long hours, the hard filming days, and how unpredictable show business could be. All of these things could put stress on even the strongest relationships. Even with all the challenges, being married helped give Borg emotional support during a time when his future was still unsure. It was the first major personal foundation of his grown-up life. Soon after his divorce from Keemans, Borg started another important chapter when he married the famous Mexican actress Katy Gerardo in 1959. Their marriage brought together two strong magnetic personalities, Both had successful careers and a powerful sense of who they were. Gerardo was already a respected star in both Mexico and Hollywood. People knew her for her fiery spirit and dramatic presence. These were qualities that both attracted Borgnine and sometimes caused problems with his own vibrant personality. Their time together was passionate but rocky. It was marked by cultural differences, busy work schedules, and the strong pride of two independent artists. Even though their marriage only lasted until 1963, it left an unforgettable mark on Borgnine's personal story. People often remember it as a whirlwind romance between two incredible talents. Probably the most famously short marriage of Borgnine's life was when he married legendary Broadway star Ethel Merman in 1964. Their marriage lasted just 32 days, becoming one of Hollywood's most talked about brief romances. The pairing itself surprised many people. Borgnine, the rough down-to-earth actor with a big hearty laugh, and Merman, the powerhouse musical star with a voice so strong she could fill a theater without needing a microphone. Even though they were first drawn together because they admired each other and wanted to have fun, the relationship quickly fell apart under the pressure of clashing personalities and the stress of everyone watching them. The marriage became so famous that in her book about her life, Merman supposedly devoted an entire chapter to talking about the experience. And that chapter was just one blank page with nothing written on it. Despite how short and chaotic it was, the marriage remains a legendary piece of Hollywood history and a small but unforgettable footnote in Borgnine's life. In 1965, Borgnine married Donna Rancourt. This marked a time of relative calm and normal home life in his otherwise fast-moving personal life. Their marriage lasted 7 years from 1965 to 1972, and during this time, Borgnine was continuing to build his reputation as one of Hollywood's most reliable and beloved character actors. His work schedule stayed demanding and busy, but the marriage gave him a sense of stability as he went through the peak years of his career. Borgnine later said this time was one of learning, growth, and understanding. It was a time when he matured not just as an actor, but as a man trying to balance being famous with wanting a meaningful home life. Even though the marriage eventually ended, it represented an important grounded period for him. Finally, in 1973, Ernest Borgnine married Tova Trains. She would become not just his wife but his true life partner, staying with him until his death in 2012. Their marriage, the longest and most lasting of all his marriages, was marked by deep affection, partnership, and supporting each other. Tova, a successful businesswoman and makeup company owner, brought her own independent spirit and professional success into the relationship. This created a situation where both partners did really well. Together they faced the important moments of Borgnine's later career, including new roles, awards, and the honor of lasting so long in a business that often forgot people quickly. Their connection was often described as warm, grounded, and filled with shared respect. It gave Borgnine the stability and companionship he had looked for so long. Through the earlier chapters of his love life with Tova, he found not only a wife, but someone he could trust completely, and a loyal supporter who stayed by his side for nearly 40 years. For years, fans of classic TV shows wondered what Ernest Borgnine truly thought of his friend and fellow actor Frank Sutton. He was the unforgettable performer who played Sergeant Vince Carter. Borgnine, known for his warmth, his booming laugh, and his deep respect for acting, rarely spoke publicly about Sutton's life and what he left behind. But when he finally did talk about it, his words painted a picture of admiration, tenderness, and genuine affection. He revealed a side of both men that audiences never fully saw on TV. Frank was one of those guys who didn't just walk into a room. He charged into it with that same energy he brought to Sergeant Carter, Borg said. He explained that Sutton's intensity wasn't something he just turned on when the cameras started rolling. It was built into him, like a restless electricity that made people pay attention the moment he started talking. Borgnine went on to explain that Sutton's reputation as a loud, tough, as-nails drill instructor on Guma Pile, USMC, made some people think he was rigid or had no sense of humor when he wasn't on camera. But that wasn't Frank at all, he said firmly. The man loved to laugh, and when he laughed it was big, so big it filled up the whole stage. According to Borgnine, Sutton had a surprisingly tender heart underneath all the loud behavior. He remembered how Sutton would go out of his way to help young actors feel more confident or share tips about timing and how to deliver lines well. What impressed Borg the most was Sutton's discipline. He was always prepared, he said. Always. Frank respected acting too much to ever treat it like it wasn't important. The two men had first met at industry events in the 1960s, long before their friendship became strong. Borgnine said they connected right away. We were cut from the same cloth, he explained. We were both character actors who knew how important it was to play ordinary men. That mutual respect became the foundation of a friendship that lasted despite busy schedules and working on different projects. Borgnine spoke about Sutton's generosity. He recalled moments when he noticed Sutton quietly paying a crew member's medical bill or helping a struggling performer get a job. He never wanted credit for those things, Borgnine said. He just did them because it was the right thing to do. Borgnine also talked about the heartbreaking side of Sutton's story, his sudden death in 1974. It hit me like a ton of bricks, he admitted. Frank was in the middle of a performance, still giving everything he had to the audience. That was Frank. He never did anything halfway. For Borgnine, Sutton's death wasn't just losing a colleague, but losing a man whose fire and enthusiasm made everyone around him better. He emphasized how Sutton's legacy lived on through the characters he brought to life. He didn't play Sergeant Carter, Borg said softly. He became him. That's why people still talk about him. By finally breaking his silence, Ernest Borgnine gave the world a fuller, richer view of Frank Sutton. Not just the drill sergeant yelling orders on TV, but the dedicated professional, the loving friend, the man who poured his entire soul into every moment he spent in front of an audience. I still miss him, Borg confessed. But whenever I see an old episode, I smile. There he is, alive, loud, and giving it everything he's got. That was Frank. That's the man I knew. At the remarkable age of 95, Ernest Borgnine passed away on July 8, 2012. This closed the final chapter of a life that had stretched across nearly 100 years and touched countless people in the world of entertainment and beyond. His death was caused by kidney failure, a condition that had quietly gotten worse in his final months. He died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, a hospital known for treating major public figures. It was a place he had come to visit often during his later years, as his health began to naturally get worse with age. In the month before his death, Borgnine had surgery. The details of this were kept private, showing both the personal nature of his medical problems and the family's wish to protect his dignity. Despite the surgery, he stayed in his typical strong spirits. He continued to greet visitors and medical staff with the same warm, friendly personality that had defined him for decades. In the days before he passed away, Borgnine had returned to the hospital for what was expected to be a routine medical checkup. People close to him later said that, while he looked physically tired, he still had an unmistakable spark. It was a mixture of humor, strength, and that unmistakable Ernest Borgnine charm that people had come to know both on screen and off screen. His death, when it came, was peaceful. He was surrounded by loved ones, marking the end of a long and historic career that included film, TV shows, and stage performances. It earned him a dedicated worldwide group of fans.